So here we have the next round of the International Mega Circuit, this time in playoffs. I haven't explained much about the format of the league, so I'm gonna do it very quickly. This is double elimination. There's 8 people in playoffs. If you lose, you go to the lower bracket, and if you get to the top 3, you get the money prize. And anyway, let's just go right into the team analysis. And as you saw in the title, I am bringing stall. Why? Normally bringing full on stall is not very recommendable in draft, because the opponent knows what your walls are and thus can prep for them. But if you look at his draft, first of all, it's extremely weird. There's barely any cohesion here. Sorry, Cavern, but in my opinion, there's barely any cohesion here. There's also 2 megas for some reason, and the mons don't work that well together. Except for that, there's also problems like the offensive mons in this team are very linear. Banet clicking Poltergeist, Melmetal clicking Double Iron Bash, Ember with stabs is like the next best thing. And his team looks like a stall, but it's not really a stall because it doesn't work that well as a stall, unless you go like full on stall. But it's very weird. And yeah, the offensive ways of his team are so linear that if I run almost exclusively defensive mons, I can wall everything. Look at my draft: Mega Scizor, Swampert, Arcanine Sunduru, Duraludon, Poliwrath, Magnemite. I have 7 steel resists for the Melmetal. And Mew is Terra, so it could go up to 8. And you know I'm not bringing Telmice in this matchup, so it's everyone except Rorimund. So here, let you go right into the team and you will start to understand why I am running such a defensive team. First of all, this Mew. This Mew is here for a couple of reasons. First of all, thanks to Loneberry and Synchronize, I can reflect back a status without getting permanently inflicted with it, and then I can taunt the next turn to prevent him from going for it again. Let me give you an example. I switch into Alomomola. Alomomola click is toxic. I bounce it back, so Alomomola is toxic. I get cured, and next turn I click taunt. That's the idea. I also have Psychic Noise because sometimes you want to do damage while also preventing recovery. If you're in front of a Zapdos that it's at 50%, you don't want to just taunt on a Ball Switch or do another attack on a Roost. This is the perfect mid ground, and very important for this matchup, I have Spikes. Because his removal is Zapdos and Ribombee, and that's it. And I can go over his team very easily with Spikes. The Zapdos is not the best removal here because I have a lot of counters for it, and Ribombee is probably not even going to be. I am defensive, but I have a lot of speed with this Mew because I want to be faster than the Zapdos. I want to prevent the Zapdos from doing anything that would be annoying to me, and I also can speed like the Mesprit, for example. Anyway, I am Terra Water, but this Terra is full on bait. When I mean, let me show you. I have an Arcanine that is a dedicated lead. I am always going to Terra turn 1. I plan to lead, and versus almost any possible Pokemon, I click Terra turn 1. Meaning that I'm never going to Terra the Mew. Maybe having Terra Water makes him think between some possible leads. Like maybe he thinks that I am going to Terra the Mew on lead to make it resist a Double Iron Bash, and thus he decides to not lead, for example, Ember, or he decides to not lead Melmetal, which, I mean, Arcanine beats them, but Arcanine beats them, but I prefer to be in front of a lead that never does anything to me and always switches. Melmetal can stay in and click T-Wave, right? But for example, what is he going to do if he leads Alomomola and I Terra turn 1? Nothing. So I prefer to get those kinds of bait leads. Anyway, I have a speed for Ember. Ember is the scariest mon in his entire team, and you are saying, what? He has a Melmetal, he has a Mega Panet? No, I have counters for all of them. There's no real permanent counter for Ember. Ember is extremely good at killing every mon in my team. You remember that from me playing against Infernape a couple of rounds ago. Well, this is the same. But with Flash Fire and Terra Poison, I will if its stabs. Other reasons to be Terra Poison: I will not miss my Toxic. Yeah, you know, a Poison type does not mix. A Poison type does not miss Toxic, and I also become immune to Toxic, so he cannot Toxic me. I never miss the Toxic on him. And there's a Roar, because you know, there could always be some kind of scary setamon, like, I don't know, imagine a Rest, a Sleep Talk, Calm Mind, Momola, something crazy like that. I can roar it. And also I have the Citrus Berry, which is the second berry you have seen so far. This spam of berries is to get rid of my item, and thus I can wall the Mega Banet Poltergeist. But it's important to be Citrus Berry instead of itemless, because the Citrus Berry allows me to survive 2 head smashes from Ember. And given that I am the counter to Ember, I need to survive 2. And you are saying, oh, but you can spam Morning Sun until they miss. Yes, but he has spammed a lot of Scarf Ember so far, and thus he could be doing it again against me. Anyway, next mon. Third berry, the Swampert. This Swampert is, for the most part, a dedicated leading to Melmetal. Melmetal can do a lot of annoying stuff. You never know if it's gonna do Acid Armor, Body Press. That's a possible set that I had problems with in some mocks, and thus I decided to have this mon that does a lot of damage to it with Air Power. Also, I have some speed in case he has speed. For a 0 speed Swampert, I am faster than that, and he cannot stop me. It's very important to have a Rocks mon when you are playing Stall, right? You need the hazards. I have Spikes, but the Spikes is not enough, because there's a Mesprit, there's a Zapdos, and thus having the Stealth Rock is gonna help me a lot in getting that damage. Also, the knockoff helps me a lot. In case Zapdos comes in, I get rid of its boots, and then I hinder it forever. I also have Resto and Chesto for 2 reasons. First of all, I can recover HP against my metal, and also I get rid of my item for the Poltergeist Mega Banet. Third item consumption so far. Next up, Scizor. This Scizor, first of all, I am Morning Sun instead of Roost, because Ribombee is one of the Pokemon that learns Imprison and Roost. Just saying. Anyway, this Mega Scizor is a big counter to Melmetal. It's also a big counter to Piloswine. It's a big counter to some special attackers, because they have no move to hit me, like Mega Sceptile or Ribombee. And it's just here to spam Toxic and Knockoff. I need to get rid of the boots. A very easy way to lose with Hazard spam is running into Heavy Duty Boots spam. That's why I have a second Knockoff. And that's it, that's the whole reason to have this Scizor. It's a defensive mon that gets rid of items and clicks Toxic, and it can U-turn into other mons. Sometimes you can struggle in some matchups when you are playing Stall, because X defensive mon gets too low on HP and you never manage to get it in against a mon that you can recover with. Like, for example, Arcanine gets low on HP, it cannot recover on anyone, but thanks to U-turn, I can U-turn in the face of someone that I can recover against and get it back to full HP. And that's the reason to have this Scizor. Next mon, this Duraludonin. First of all, just look at the moves: Rest, Sleep Talk, Dragon Tail, and Roar. Why? So that when I click Sleep Talk, there's a 66% chance that I get a facing move, either Dragon Tail or Roar. I could, of course, have something like Dragon Pulse instead of Dragon Tail, but then when I click Sleep Talk, there's only a 33% chance that I force him to switch instead of a 66% chance. This one is here because it's a perfect counter to Zapdos. Zapdos does nothing to me. It does like, I think, 20% with Heat Wave, which is the best move that it has to hit me, and I'm just going to recover forever. And the spam of facing moves with my hazard spam is going to make him die very quickly. This mon is also another resist for metal. It resists flamethrower, so it doesn't take much damage. It resists psychic from Besprit, and it walls both Besprits. It's so good into him, and having rest on another mon is always good, especially because the other mon with rest does not have a sleep talk, so it's not a forever rest. This is a forever rest. And now I have shown you 5 defensive mons. Now there's a 6th mon, which is not entirely defensive. This Honduras, first of all, it's very bulky, 252 HP, 88 defense. Why? This allows me, if I remember correctly, to survive a crit +2 Shadow Sneak from a max attack Banet. I am the counter to Banet. I can switch into Banet and click Foul Play, because Banet is never going to click Poltergeist right away because of the spam of itemless. If he sees that I'm new, my Arcanine and my Swampert no longer have an item, he will click Sword Dance first. And as he clicks Sword Dance and I come in, I kill it with Foul Play. Unless he is defensive, and if he is defensive, I do not die. I also have a Taunt. A Taunt is very good into his team because his team looks to be very defensive, and I can stop for example, the Roost on Zapdos, or rest on someone, sticky webs, whatever. I can stop it with my Prankster Taunt. I do not need that much special attack, because for the most part this mon is here just to do some damage and switch out and get other mons in. And yes, there are 2 immunes to electric move, the Piloswine and the Mega Sceptile. I'm not sure they are that good into me. And anyway, that's it for the team. As a reminder, I have a dedicated lead Arcanine that clicks Terra Poison, and after I click Terra Poison, I have a counter for every mon. Counter for Melmetal, I have Swampert, Duraludon, Scizor, and possibly the Thundurus depending on the moves. Alomomola, basically the entire team. Zapdos, I have the Duraludon. It's the only counter, for sure counter. There's also the Mew, but Mew can get hit with Toxic twice. The Mesprit, a lot of counters, etc, etc. I have counters for everything. I am not that worried. And the few stall breakers that he has, like the Mook with Curse, can get hit with Dragon Tail or Roar from Duraludon, and the Roar from Arcanine. Anyway, that's just it, and let's just go right into the game. Here we are with the game. First of all, he's Terra Captain. He only brought the Melmetal, he didn't bring the Blissey, which is to be expected, and it's Terra Steel. Like, right now I have 5 Steel Resist and possibly 6 if Mew Terras, but as you know, the Mew is not going to Terra, the Arcanine is going to Terra, so I only have a 4, but still, 4 Resist to double Iron Bash is a lot. Other things that he didn't bring, he brought the Mega Banet instead of the Mega Sceptile, to be expected. There are no Blissey, as I said, no Mukalola, no Piloswine, like, nothing too surprising, like the 6 were to be expected. Anyway, let's just go right into turn 1, because this is a very interesting turn 1. Arcanine into Mesprit. First of all, I reveal that I am not intimidated. He thinks that I am most likely Flash Fire. Justify doesn't make that much sense in this matchup. And also, he knows that I am Terra Poison because of Terra Preview, and thus, he might think that I Terra turn 1 to become the counter to Ember, or he thinks that I am Flash Fire with Terra Poison to become the counter to Ember later. Anyway, I have several options, but I think that even in the face of this possibly clicking Psychic move Mesprit, I am going to Terra Poison. I can become weak to Psychic and take a lot, but first of all, I don't die, and I am faster than most mons, so I can recover later in the face of many mons. Second of all, I don't think he's going to click a Psychic move turn 1, like he probably led to click Rocks. And first of all, if I click Terra, I cannot miss my Toxic, that is very important. So yeah, I'm just going to Terra turn 1. The Mew will not be able to bluff with its Terra Water anymore, but I don't care that much about that. Terra Poison, Toxic, and Toxic back. He clicked Toxic as I clicked Terra Poison because he did not think that I would ever Terra Poison in the face of a Psychic type, but I did. And I got my Toxic for free. But what happens now? Now he can click a Psychic move, and I am not going to stay in. I cannot do much at all anyway. So I can switch to Mew. What if he Toxics again? I don't care, I have a Lumberry, remember? And I don't think he would Toxic again in the face of a switch in Mew. So yeah, that's very good for me. I can just switch in. If he clicks a Psychic move, that's very good for me. In the next turn he clicks Toxic as I Lumberry and I start getting the spikes up. That's the plan here. Now, I come in. He reveals to be dual stab. What the hell? First of all, thank god I didn't stay in because I would have gotten paralyzed with my Arcanine and that would be super bad. And second of all, he is dual... What could this be, right? Like, it's not going to be a U-turn Psychic Rocks, which is what I expected. But this is the only Stealth Rocker, so I do expect this to be a Stealth Rock. What? I don't know what this could be anymore. This is such a weird lead. But, as you remember, I am Taunt. I can prevent him from getting another status into me. Turn 3, Taunt. He gets prevented and now I can start spamming spikes. First spike goes up. Now, I don't wanna get toxic with this Mew, even though I can toxic him back. I have a counter in Duraludon, so, like, for now, I want to keep the Mew unstatused, because I don't know his team fully, and thus I don't know if I may need my Mew to counter something very strange later. So there's no need to rush, I am stalled. I can make the team last for a long time, and thus I can use my cards at any point, and using them early when I don't have all the information is just suboptimal, and thus I am switching to Duraludon and playing it safe. I switch into Duraludon. He clicks Heatwave, okay. Now, you may think, okay, Heatwave is very much to be expected, but think of it this way, he's never going to be only Heatwave, right? He probably has another attack, he has probably Roost, probably Defog, Ball Switch, etc. So, him revealing that he's Heatwave means that, from this point, I have a lot of information. He might not even, he's almost surely not dual stab now. Because in the point that he has Heatwave, he cannot have Roost, Defog, Toxic, and another stab. So at this point, I wanna stay in, start clicking Dragon Tail, and scout for what he is. Defog, okay. Defog, there's no such thing as Defog without Roost on this Zapdos on this team, right? And thus, he's probably Roost, Defog, Heatwave, and one attack. He, I would assume, has something like Toxic. Why? Because from his point of view, the only Pokemon that are immune to Toxic in my team are Scizor and Duraludon. He probably never expected Duraludon instead of Roaring Moon, which is a decision that I made and not many people would expect it. And he thinks that the other Mon immune to Toxic, the Scizor, dies to Heatwave. That's why at this point I think he's Heatwave, Defog, Roost, Toxic, which as you know is fully walled by Arcanine, and I will be abusing this later. For now, Dragon Tail, I get paralyzed. He switches into Raibombi. Okay, why do I switch into Scizor instead of staying in to click Roar or whatever because he doesn't do much? Because this could be trick Choice Scarf. That's a set that he has used a lot, and I mean I understand it, I really love the Choice Scarf Raibombi set, and thus I am never risking it. I need my Pokemon in my stall team to be able to switch moves. That's like one of the most important things in stall. And thus I go into my Scizor that blocks the move. Okay. Very important here. He U-turned on me. I didn't U-turn on him, and he went to Mesprit on my Scizor. First of all, he didn't go to Zapdos and he didn't go to Ember. He didn't go to either of the two Pokemon in his team that have fire moves. Instead he went to Mesprit. Why? First of all, because he probably knows that both of these mons get walled by Arcanine. Meanwhile, Mesprit doesn't because it can click T-Wave. And second of all, him going into this almost surely means that he's Fire Punch, okay? Why else would you go into this? I if I remember correctly, I am slower than Mesprit. I am never risking Fire Punch because Scizor is so good, and thus I am just switching out. I know I am stopping a lot in every turn, but it's important because stall is not brainless, you know? Every turn matters a lot. A single turn in which you get hasty and you say, oh, it doesn't matter, I am going to stay in and do a predict, blah blah blah. Suddenly you take half of your HP with a mon that struggles to recover on many months and you lose the game. You need to think about each and every turn. I spent time in this turn thinking between staying in or not, because Mega In is very good because I get my defense and I get a big U-turn. But I am not risking it. That's the name of the game when playing stalling draft games. Do not risk it for no reason. You need to risk it sometimes, but not every time. Okay? Anyway, I get my Duraludon. What else to mention here? First of all, I still think that this is a Stealth Rock, but this could be knockoff. If he knocks off my Eviolite, I have become a lot worse, obviously. But I am just going to play forwards, assuming that he's not a knockoff, because Fire Punch knockoff as the only attacks is not that ideal. It also gets walled by my Roaring Moon. And I think he's probably something else instead of knockoff. Anyway, he switches into Zapdos, the mon that I counter. This is very funny. He switches into the mon that I counter and I force him out. Like when Zapdos comes in on anyone, I go into Duraludon. And this shows just in how bad of a position he is, that he needs to go into the mon that I counter on me. Why did he do that? Most likely because, first of all, he doesn't know my full moveset. Who would expect Restel, Deep Talk, Dragon Tail, Roar? He probably expects me to click Stealth Rock in that turn, and he went to this to be able to defog it, and then click Roost and then switch. No, just Dragon Tail. Let's see who comes in. The Melmetal. Okay, the big bad came in. This mon is going to Terra Steel. It has no reason not to because it's only Terra, and the Terra is the same as its regular type, so you always Terra it right here, right? And click double Iron Bash. I never risk my Duraludon. It may be slower because I am paralyzed, and thus it has a big chance of not moving between the flinch chance and the paralyze, and I have this Swampert that is a counter. Now, a pass to sink water. Sorry, to sip water. Anyway, refreshing water. Now, the Swampert came in. Terra. Double Iron Bash. A lot of damage. But I hit the Calc, right? This is not Choice Band. Choice Band would have done more, but I'm pretty sure that this is not zero attack. This is not no boosting item either, and thus I think that this is most likely Punching Globe. That's a very common move to use on Melmetal. It boosts double Iron Bash because it is a fist move. It is boosted by Iron Fist if you ever had an Iron Fist double Iron Bash mon, and it gets boosted by that and prevents Rocky Helmet. So yeah, I am not that, but now I can finally start getting my rocks up. Mesprit comes in. Rocks for free, okay. Now this Mesprit is dying so fast between Toxic and Stealth Rock. I am never going to risk anything on this Mesprit, not going to risk any status on anyone or anything on anyone because it's dying so fast between Toxic and Stealth Rock. And he has no Alomomola, there is no wish passing into this. Zapdos comes in as I go into Duraludon. I mean, I went to my counter to Mesprit, which happens to be a counter to Zapdos, so I don't care that much about this. Now, why do I decide to go into the Mew? Okay, you know how I said about forcing the issue with a stall? Okay. Sometimes, forcing the issue doesn't just mean, oh, I'm not going to do anything hasty early. It also means there's some progress are more progress than other progress, right? Getting a Toxic on an important mon is not the same as getting 10% chip on something that can recover it, right? Getting a Toxic on Zapdos is game winning because the Zapdos is going to be stopped from doing anything going forward as it slowly takes chip. Once Zapdos is out, I have so many mons that become so free. Especially the Scizor clicking U-turn, right? Because I don't want to get static. And he's probably going to click the fog anyway and get rid of my Stealth Rock, and I can get my spikes up. So yeah, that's why I switched my counter, because I want to get some progress now, so that, because you know, stall is a lot of shuffling, right? I go to this mon and then this mon and then this mon. You want to get some progress as those turns happen, instead of just PP stalling, right? You want to get some slow progress, but progress nonetheless. If he's going to defog my Stealth Rock, I want to get either a Toxic or a Spike so that my progress keeps existing. And yeah. Now I click Taunt. I click Taunt so that I can prevent a Toxic. As I said before, I think his only attack is Heatwave. I can prevent the Toxic and get spikes up early. That's the plan. He then click Toxic, so I'm not going to just let him get it for free in that turn as I click Taunt, because next turn as I click Spike, sorry. Because next turn I will need to click Taunt and I take 2 rounds of Toxic. So I click Taunt, he switches into Banet. Oh no, okay. Now, first of all, remember how I keep talking about the Banet never wanting to click Poltergeist right away because I am item consumption? This is the situation, right? He knows that I am itemless because I consumed the Lumberry, and he is never going to click Poltergeist in this turn probably. But there's still no proof that he is in Shadow Claw, right? What if I switch my Thundurus and he clicks Shadow Claw? That would be awful. What if I switch my Thundurus and he is defensive and thus he doesn't die to a foul play? That would be awful. And thus, even though the plan for the most part was to switch into Thundurus, I am not going to do that. I am going to switch into Arcanine. He clicks Skitter Smack. Okay. I don't care that much. He is taunted, remember. He cannot click Sword Dance in that turn. He can only attack. He is never clicking Poltergeist, so this is safe. And now I can get a Toxic up. If I Toxic this Banet, more progress. Any Toxic is progress when you are playing Stall, because you are switching so much and he is struggling to do any damage. And thus I can click Toxic right here. I don't care if he switches, because... Why do I not care? Because look, he just lost another 6%. He cannot do it that many times. He can only take Toxic a limited amount of time, especially if I manage to get rocks up again. And once this Mesprit stops being annoying, like, this Mesprit has come in a lot of times so far, right? And it's annoying, but I get progress, guaranteed. If I click Flamethrower on the Banet and it stays in, I don't get progress, and he gets damage, and I am sad. This is guaranteed progress, even if he goes into the mon that, as you can see, is immune to my new Toxic. Anyway, I keep having this counter, the Duraludon. I can just come in and start clicking Dragon Tail again. Zapdos comes in, I get paralyzed. Okay, I didn't get the progress of Dragon Tail, but still I can Dragon Tail again, and I can try to get progress that way. He clicks Roost, revealing the Roost, I get the Dragon Tail, and he... more progress. Look at this Mesprit, it was at 40% 3 turns ago. He's at 15. Water. Anyway, he's at 15. He's dying so fast. I am really dealing with this Mesprit. He switches again. Another Dragon Tail. Now he gets in the big bad. Okay? Every time that I click facing with this Duraludon, it risks the Melmetal coming in, and thus I have to switch. But I mean, it's okay, I still have my Swampert. Swampert is limited in the amount of times it can come in, because I am Chest Over instead of Sleep Talk, but still I can do it again. I come in. Double Iron Bash, okay. I am low on HP. He's almost surely going to click it again because he wants to get rid of this Swampert. He does not know that I am Resto Chesto. Thus, I just click Resto Chesto. Okay. I wake up. Another Double Iron Bash. I don't know if you knew, but Double Iron Bash is 8 PP, and he has already consumed 3. He needs to consume 2 more to switch to kill the Swampert. So there's a big chance that I just PP stall the Double Iron Bashes. Now, I am just going to get rocks up, because I need the progress. Yes, he might defog them later, but I have Toxic on multiple months, and anytime he wants to, like, I have Toxic on Scizor, Swampert, sorry, not Swampert, I have Toxic on Scizor and Arcanine, and thus, anytime that he attempts to defog them, I can Toxic him with those, or stop it with Taunt on Mew and Thundurus. So he really only gets a defog off with Duraludon. Now this is an important turn, because I have three options. Option 1, I switch. If I switch, I don't fall asleep with Swampert nor lose it, which I mean could be good, because I can always use a sack, you know. He has some strong mons and having a sack available is good. Option 2, Earth Power. I get half of his HP and he kills me. Option 3, I click Rest. Why would I click Rest, knowing that I am never going to wake up? Because I can manage to PP stall the double Iron Bash with Swampert without dying. And I am going to do that. Maybe Earth Power was better? Maybe. Maybe Knockoff was better? Maybe. But I just want to PP stall the double Iron Bash because it's the only move in his entire team that scares me a lot. So yeah, I'm just going to click Rest. I have a very passive Swampert, but this Swampert is a sack anyway. And the difference between Rest and Air Power is that I stay alive. No chip, but I stay alive. Now I am going to switch again. Okay. He only has 2 more double Iron Bashes, okay? The Swampert can be sacked to Ember at any point in case I am ever scared with Arcanine. Remember that it does die to 2 head smashes in some rolls if I don't have my Citrus Berry anymore. So yeah, Scizor. I come in, I can finally Mega and get a lot of defense. Boom, I Mega and I recover. He reveals T-Wave. What? This is not setup then? Or if it is, it's the weirdest setup ever. Because you are never set up with Melmetal without Rest or Lesties, right? That doesn't make any sense. Well, he hasn't revealed to be Lesties or not, but anyway. You are never set up without Recovery. So he set up a Rest, T-Wave and double Iron Bash. It doesn't make any sense at all. And thus I think he's not set up and I am not that worried. And you are saying, oh no, Tincap, you are going to get flinched or paralyzed with your Scizor because double Iron Bash and the high flinch rate, blah 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 blah. Yes, but he doesn't 2-hit KO. Look at the damage pre-Mega. He's doing nothing with double Iron Bash. And he can only click it twice. Yes, he can attack me and flinch. Attack me and flinch. And then next turn I just recover. And he can also fail in any of those 2 turns. And thus I am just going to stay in and start spamming Morning Roost or Knockoff until something happens. Double Iron Bash. No damage. 30%. I get flinched. Okay. Now he switches. Why? Because he only has 1 PP. He wants to make some use of it later, but I don't think he's going to get any use of it later. Also, he revealed double Iron Bash and T-Wave, right? I think at this point that he's Ice Punch, because the 2 moves do not do much damage at all to to Thundurus. So I think he's that. Anyway, Zapdos comes in, again probably going to defog, but first of all I'm going to switch obviously, and I have my Duraludon. Yes, no more rocks. Yes, this sucks, but rocks are for 2 months, one of them has boots and I have not been able to knock them off yet, and the other one is just going to die soon. So yeah, spikes here are basically as good as rocks here, and I don't care that much. Heat Wave. Okay, fully paralyzed. At this point, I am going to click Rest, because I don't want to risk anything, right? Imagine, Heat Wave, I click Dragon Tail, and he switches out, I am at 40. Later, if I come in on Heat Wave, and then he does another Heat Wave and I get fully paralyzed, I cannot click Rest and I lose. Thus, I am going to click Rest as soon as possible. Another Heat Wave, okay. Another Para. This is getting very scary. 2 Paras in a row, but he would need 2 more Paras to beat me or a crit. So I am not that worried, just going to keep spamming Rest. Heat Wave. Oh my god. Oh no. 3 paras in a row. If he gets another para, I will be completely unable to recover. Because I am slower than everyone due to being paralyzed. And I will just die. I know I want this with Arcanine. I have said this before. But I want the Duraludon alive. Duraludon is always good. And thus, I do not want to lose my Duraludon. I'm going to click rest. Please, do not get paralyzed again, Duraludon. I get the rest. Crisis averted. I almost died. Also, I have a Sleep Talk, if you remember correctly. But I decided to switch. Why? Because remember, I walled the Zapdos with Arcanine. I already know that. And thus, I think I can get the Arcanine in and start clicking Toxic. Like, imagine I get it in on a Heat Wave, and then I get a Toxic if he goes to Mesprit again. First of all, turn 1, right? Turn 1. I reveal to be faster, so if he switches into Mesprit, I get the Flamethrower. Anyone else of these 3 months get Toxic, and Melmetal is never switching into Arcanine. That's why I went into Arcanine, but as you already got spoiled with, he switched into Ember. I don't care, this is my counter to Ember. He is not going to hit KO me with Head Smash because of Citrus Berry, and I can finally get the Toxic off on this mon. Boom! 50. Citrus Berry. And the Toxic. This is... this is such a good position for me. I can spam Morning Sun because he doesn't do 62 ever, and he can also miss, and if he doesn't, he takes recoil and he's Toxic. I'm just going to keep spamming recovery. He says that he hates me. I know, I brought a stall, but also I don't have any justification. Anyway, he's in such a bad position that he has to switch Melmetal in on an Arcanine. You know, this is horrible for him. He knows that he takes a lot from Flamethrower, but this is a trap. A lesser player would stay in here and get paralyzed by T-Wave. Like, Flamethrower does 50, I get paralyzed, and suddenly Arcanine is no longer the best mon ever because I can get paralyzed at any point. Oh, also, side note, I forgot to mention, he's a Scarf on Ember because he was faster than Arcanine. Anyway, yeah. I am never going to let him paralyze my Arcanine. I am just going to switch on the thing. Now, finally, Thundurus comes in because I can get a big hit off, and I am never going to stay in on a Ice Punch. I'm just going to Ball Switch into Scizor. If he stays in, it's because he clicked Ice Punch. So yeah, free Ball Switch. 31. Okay, not the most damage ever, but first of all, first damage that I do to Melmetal, I can finally find out if this is lefties or not, and I can just get my Scizor in. Let's see what he clicks. Double Iron Bash. What? Sorry, by the way, if I'm taking too many pauses to drink water. I am a little bit sick, and thus my throat hurts, and I need to drink water. Anyway, Double Iron Bash. No more Double Iron Bashes. He revealed to not be Ice Punch because otherwise you would have clicked that turn in the face of Thundurus. Okay, Mega Scizor is not in any problem right now. I don't think he's going to be Iron Defense Body Press, sorry, Acid Armor Body Press, because that makes no sense without lefties and without rest. So yeah, he reveals to be rest as I recover. Okay. Now I am going to admit something to you. I am bad. And I don't know game mechanics. I thought that if your move runs out of PP and you click Sleep Talk, it cannot be called. It can, and that's obviously the play that he has here. His set is obviously Rest, Sleep Talk, Thunder Wave, Double Iron Bash. I don't know this, and I thought, okay, he cannot click anything besides T-Wave from here on out. Anyway, I don't care that much about it because I am always clicking knockoff in this turn, right? Now, I do get paralyzed, not flinch, but paralyzed. And he can flinch me at any point, but he can only flinch me while clicking Sleep Talk. Meaning, if I stay in and I get flinched again because of another call of Sleep Talk, Double Iron Bash, next turn he cannot flinch me and I can recover again. And that's the thing. So yeah, I am just going to keep staying in. keep trying to do something. Now, another morning sun. Okay. He is completely unable to attack. He only has T-Wave, Rest, and Leap Dog. Unless I do damage to him, he will not be able to get any attack. But, just in case, I will click Knock Off. First of all, because he has a good chance of switching. Second of all, because by clicking Knock Off, he will get he will click Rest again, click another 2 Sleep Dogs, and then he will be unable to do much. Also, Mew was this and Thundurus was this, because both of them click Taunt and he cannot click a Sleep Dog. And he gets walled by both Duraludon and Swampert and Scizor on the turns that he is not asleep. Basically, this Melmetal does nothing. Anyway, I click Knock Off. Another T-Wave. Boom! Knock Off. Punching Glove, as I said that it was. Okay, now he can click Rest, and he's going to. Here I get a U-turn off. Why? Because Thundurus, as I said, was this because of Taunt, and I can Taunt this and then get a big hit off. Boom! Taunt. No, he's never going to attack me because he's taunted and he cannot click anything. Big T-Volt. I click T-Volt because it does more damage than Volt Switch and I don't need to do anything else. He gets the Ember in. First of all, first kill, turn 45. He gets the Ember in, but he's Scarf. I am not going to stay in because I died. And I can go into Arcanine. If he clicked Head Smash, first of all, it's a roll in my favor to survive, because of the miss chance. And even if he does get a Head Smash that does, let's say, 51% to Arcanine, I just switch the next turn to Swampert or Duraludon. He would be locked into Head Smash. Oh, sorry about that. Anyway, I am here once again switching into the Arcanine and he misses. Okay, because he missed, I decided to click Morning Sun because I thought that he would click it again, going for a crit or something. He didn't. Okay, doesn't matter. I wasted one Morning Sun as Zapdos comes in. Remember, sorry about that. As I was saying, remember, I do wall this, the Zapdos with Arcanine, which is why I click Toxic. He's switching to Melmetal. Now, here I don't stay in, even though I have Flamethrower and I 2-hit KO this, because again, he could get a Sleep Dog, T-Wave, I get paralyzed and I lose. Maybe some way, somehow. I am never going to risk it. Why risk it when I have all the switches in the world? I am stalled. I can switch without needing to risk anything. So I am switching into Scizor. Let's see. A Sleep Dog, T-Wave. I would have gotten paralyzed if I stayed in. And I didn't because I switched. Now, he cannot move. I get a U-turn into Mew. Okay, remember that one of the cards that I have is stopping this Zapdos with Toxic, right? Like bouncing it back. I am finally going to use it, because this Mew is no longer needed in order for me to win. Ember is dying. Raibombi, not an important one. Banette, I beat it with something else always. Zapdos, I want to Toxic it soon. Yes, I could have gotten Arcanine, and I could have clicked Flamethrower, and yes, that was a better play, but I didn't think about that in the moment. I thought, this stall, I want my spikes, and I went to Mew. Sorry about the bad play, but I mean it's a bad play with justification. Justification. Psychic Noise, so he doesn't click Rust. Heal blocked, Toxic. Finally, the Zapdos is Toxic. I am going to click a Spike. I am going to click a Spike so that I start getting the progress that I want. The Ember dies sooner, and everything gets chipped. And yeah, he cannot click Rust, so I don't have a need to click Taunt in this turn. He switches into Melmetal on my Spike. Good. I start getting progress, and the Zapdos is so low and slower than many months, and it's going to die eventually. Scizor in again, because this is my safest counter. Yes, on that turn I could have switched into Thundurus, because he was unable to attack. Anyway, now, I let me tell you about this turn, like a little story. When you switch with U-turn, at the bottom of your screen, you get all of your mons, and you get the message that says, who do you want to switch into? Okay, yeah, you know about that, you have clicked U-turn on a Pokemon game before, on Showdown. Okay. I was not paying attention because I was calking in this turn. I was calking something about the Zapdos, I think. Okay. I didn't see that I got fully paralyzed. So when I came back to seeing what was happening, I saw the Mon options below and I clicked them. I didn't realize that I also have the move options, meaning that I hadn't clicked U-turn. I clicked U-turn, got fully paralyzed, and I didn't know, and that's why, and this turn, I hard switched out. I mean, it doesn't matter that much because the worst case scenario was a double Iron Bash that doesn't do even half of my HP because of all the bulk that I have. But yes, this was horrible because in this turn he could have put me in range of the Banette, and maybe the Banette sweeps in some insane universe in which it is Sword Dance, Shadow Claw, Kitten Smack, Shadow Nick. Yeah, this was a horrible play because I wasn't paying attention. Anyway, he doesn't get the double Iron Bash anyway, but there's no justification. I am just bad sometimes. And yeah, I get the Thundurus in. I know he cannot attack me anymore because he has burnt the 2 turns of sleep. So I can just start clicking strong attacks. Ball switch. Ball switch just in case. I can always get the Scissorin. I have no need to click T-Bolt, you know. I can click Ball switch or T-Bolt whenever I want because I want to, even though T-Bolt looks better, clicking Ball Switch allows me to reposition if he decides to switch. Basically, that's the reason for that. I get the Arcanine in because I know he dies to Toxic. He goes into Malmetal, and I am again not going to risk it. Just going to go into Scizor. He clicks Rest again. Okay, by the way, I'm going to stop pausing so much because the game looks pretty much over. I can just U-turn out and go into Thundurus. In this turn, I click Ball Switch instead of Taunt because both work in the way of not allowing the Melmetal to get the thing off against Thundurus, the double Iron Bash. Anyway, I get the Arcanine in because I can finally click Flamethrower. Remember that I wall it because I don't have the Citrus Berry anymore. And he switches into this, I finally 2-hit KO. Yes, I could have 2-hit KO this many turns ago, but I decided to never reach the T-Wave, and I think it paid off. Anyway, I'm just going to win this game, you know. This is faster than these 2 months, and it beats this. So I'm just going to stay in and start clicking Flamethrower because the game is over. Switcheroo, as I said, it was going to be Choose Scarf. I am now just going to win. The Banette comes in, and oh no! The Arcanine! The 6-0! I lost the 6-0! No! Arcanine! Come back! No! The Arcanine is gone. He clicked Destiny Bond and I lost my Arcanine. Damn you, Mega Banette! Damn you! And yeah, the game is over. And okay. Anyway, that's it for the first round of playoffs. Next round is a money round. What do I mean? If I win next round, I manage to get money in the league. Otherwise, if I lose, I need to win several other rounds to guarantee money. So yeah, it's against Swaggy too, so if you know Swaggy, that's gonna be a very hype game for you. And you will see I have some crazy techs for that game. And anyway, yeah, that's it, and goodbye.